Hello, guys, and welcome back to Inside the Daily Gist. We are back again like we never left. Thank you, guys, for coming back. Yeah, well, guys, the debate between Nikki Haley and DeSantis, it was a pretty calm debate. It's not like the crazy debates that we were used to back in the days, like 4, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. This one was very respectful, and you can actually, you know what I mean? This is election here. You want to hear from the candidates. Guess who is missing? Donald Trump. And he is qualified to attend the debates, but he chose not to. You know what I mean? But let's go listen to Nikki Haley and DeSantis. Let's continue the conversation in the comment section. As usual, please let's respect ourselves while we comment. We just bringing you guys these, the speak from different candidates because this is election here. The more we hear from these candidates, the more we're gonna know who we want to vote for. Because remember, your votes matter. We all need to vote, and the more we hear from these candidates, Nikki Haley, DeSantis, I hope we can hear more from Donald Trump. You know what I mean? And the more we hear from holidays, we will be here. It's not about you voting party, it's about you voting a candidate that actually going to meet. You know what I mean? Our needs, your needs. It's very important. Let's go ahead and listen to this debate. And let's continue the conversation in the comment section. Please do not forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Bye for now.
We need a balanced budget amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Number 3, we need to give the president a line item veto. And number 4, when you see all these congressmen making a killing in the stock market, like Nancy Pelosi, she could run a very lucrative hedge fund. We need a 28th Amendment to the Constitution that says very simply, Congress shall make no law respecting the citizens of the United States that does not also apply to members of Congress themselves.
I want to turn now to the topic of abortion, which of course has been hotly debated in this Republican primary campaign. Governor Haley, last week, Governor DeSantis said that former President Trump is not pro-life. Do you agree?
I mean, look, I think that he did some pro-life things when he was president. You'd have to ask him. That's why he should be on this debate stage. Don't ask me what President Trump thinks. You need to have him on this debate stage and ask him for yourself.
Governor DeSantis?
Well, look, I think that we've stood very strongly for a culture of life. Governor Reynolds is here. She has stood strongly for a culture of life and enact pro-life protection. We've done it in the state of Florida. Donald Trump has attacked that. What they did under Governor Reynolds here in Iowa, he said that that's a, quote, terrible, terrible thing. I don't know how you square that. He was at the March for Life when he was president his last year, and he said that life's a gift from God, that the unborn are made in the image of God, and that you needed to have protections for that human life. And now saying it's a terrible, terrible thing. He's given a gift to the left to weaponize that against pro-lifers, and that's wrong. But here's the thing. Republicans need to do a better job of lifting up folks who are having children. It's very difficult to raise kids in this environment. You need to help with medical care. You need to help with affordability, and we need to help with education choice. You got to be pro-life for the whole life, and you got to have some compassion. Build a $1 billion plus big, beautiful new FBI building right in the heart of the swamp in Washington, D.C. He needs to explain why he didn't build the wall and why he added $7.8 trillion to the debt. Every candidate needs to earn your vote. Nobody's entitled to your vote. And he comes in here every now and then, he does his spiel, and then he leaves. I've shown up to all 99 counties because it's important. You're a servant of the people. You are not a ruler over the people. And that's the type of president that I will be for you.
Governor Haley, your response?
I didn't hear the criticism from Ron about me for being pro-life, but I'm not surprised. It's something that he does all day, every day. I am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband is adopted. And I've got my 2 sweet children sitting in front of me, and I had trouble having both of them. These fellas don't know how to talk about abortion. I have said over and over again, the Democrats put fear in women on abortion, and Republicans have used judgment. This is too many moms as possible. That's what what we're going to focus on doing. We're not going to demonize this issue anymore. We're not going to play politics with this issue anymore. We're going to treat it like the respectful issue that it is. And the tropes that you want to talk about, you keep saying, where is anybody talking about putting a woman in jail or giving her the death penalty? South Carolina. There is legislation right now that would put a woman in jail if she got an abortion.
Thank you, Governor.
That's why I say that.
Thank you, Governor. So I do want to remind the viewers at home, both governors have mentioned that they believe that Donald Trump should be here defending his own record. I just want to remind everybody that he did qualify for this debate, and he did not accept our invitation. Both of you talk about how important it is to protect the U.S. Constitution. 2 years after losing the 2020 election, Donald Trump wrote on social media about his baseless election lies, quote, "A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution," unquote. On that subject, former Vice President Mike Pence has said that on January 6, 2021, Donald Trump put himself over the Constitution. Governor Haley, is there any meaningful difference in how you and Donald Trump view the Constitution?
I mean, look, you take an oath to the Constitution, and I think what you're seeing is Donald Trump basically said that the election was stolen. He went on and on talking about the election being stolen. He said that January 6th was a beautiful day. I think January 6th was a terrible day, and we should never want to see that happen again. And I think we have to always be strong on the fact that, look, we want fair elections, and we saw some discrepancies in those elections in 2020 that should be concerning. That's why I passed voter ID in South Carolina on election day, and you should get results on election day. But that election, Trump lost it. Biden won that election, and the idea that he's gone and carried this out forever to the point that he's going to continue to say these things to scare the American people are wrong. We've seen a lot of states come together and do more election integrity bills. We need to do more than that. We still have 3 or 4 states that I'm worried about that don't have that. But at the end of the day, I will always defend and fight for the Constitution. That's what we should do as Americans. I think what happened on January 6th was a terrible day, and I think President Trump will have to answer for it.
So just a clarification, Governor. Is there any meaningful difference in how you and Donald Trump view the Constitution?
Well, I mean, I think that he says January 6th was a beautiful day. I don't think it was a beautiful day. I think you look at that. He thinks that he could go and bring in the fact that he wanted to change what the states did, the fact that he wanted to overturn the elections in D.C., those votes happen at the state level. You don't ever allow in D.C. for those votes to be changed at the federal level. Governor. States' rights matter.
Thank you, Governor. Governor DeSantis, is there any meaningful difference in how you and Donald Trump view the Constitution?
My role model for how to do the Constitution is George Washington. He said, the Constitution is the guide that I will never abandon. And I remember when I took an oath to be an officer that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. As President of the United States, you will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. You can't just terminate the Constitution. I mean, I know he does, word vomit from time to time on social media, but obviously I will uphold the Constitution. And I think it's fine to criticize Donald Trump, and I know the media brings this up a lot. But you know who else deserves to be criticized? The people that violated the Constitution during COVID to lock people out of schools, to destroy businesses, to force masks on people, to try to force vaccines. I'm going to bring a record kids and to make sure they're proud of us and we set a good example. So that's what we would do in that situation. But I think there's a larger issue Republicans have got to think of. Donald Trump's going to lose that appeal. He's going to end up going to trial in front of a stacked left-wing D.C. jury of all Democrats. What are the odds that he's going to get through that? And that's not even talking about the validity of the charges. I don't think he gets through that. And so what are we going to do as Republicans in terms of who we nominate for president? If Trump is the nominee, it's going to be about January 6th, legal issues, criminal trials. The Democrats and the media would love to run with that. I'm not running for my issues. I'm running for your issues. We need to make this election a referendum on the failures of Joe Biden, the failures of the Democratic Party, and how we have the formula to engineer a great comeback for this country. That's what I would do.
Thank you, Governor. Governor Haley, your response?
Not exactly a response.
I didn't hear the question.
The question was, do you agree with the argument Donald Trump's lawyer made in court that a president should have immunity for any conduct, including and ordering the assassination of a political rival unless that president is impeached and convicted by the Senate for that offense first.
No, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we need to use some common sense here. You can't go and kill a political rival and then claim, immunity from a president. I think we have to start doing things that are right. And, Ron said we should have leaders that we can look up to. Well, then stop lying, because nobody's going to want to look up to you if you're lying. But what I do think we need to look at is, what has President Trump done? You look at the last few years, and our country is completely divided. It's divided over extremes. It's divided over hatred. It's divided over the fact that people think that if someone doesn't agree with you, that they're bad. And now we have leaders in our country that decide who's good and who's bad, who's right and who's wrong. That's not what a leader does. What a leader does is they bring out the best in people and get them to see the way forward. That's what we need in our country. We don't need this chaos anymore. We back to America.
Thank you so much. The CNN Republican presidential debate live from Drake University. We'll be back right after this.
Carolina, you chose not to expand Medicaid under Obamacare. 40 states, including this one where we are in Iowa, did expand Medicaid, covering more than 18 million Americans. As president, would you allow those states to keep their expansions in place?
Well, the first thing is we have to look at the fact that how can we be the best country in the world with the most expensive health care in the world? And so the way we're going to deal with it is we're going to open it all up. From the hospitals to the insurance companies to the doctor's offices to the pharmaceuticals to the PBMs, make them have to show us everything. Because right now, I can tell you, we take care of my parents. They're 87 and 90. My dad is in the hospital right now. When my mom was in the hospital, a nurse came up to her to give her a couple of Tylenol. And she said, I don't need them. And she said, honey, you might as well take them because you're going to pay for them anyway. When we got the bill from the hospital, no one talked to us about that. Right now, you have insurance companies and hospitals deciding what it is for us. We're going to take the patient out of the back seat and put them in the driver's seat. We're going to make sure that just like when you get your car fixed and you go and they say, we can give you a temporary fix and it'll cost this much money, or we can give you a permanent fix and it's going to cost that much money. We're going to go and make it transparent so that we can see everything, so that they have to show us their warts. The second thing is we're going to pass tort reform around this country. I did that in South Carolina. Doctors don't give you those 10 tests because they want to. It's for the 90% chance they'll get sued. And then we're going to go and eliminate certificate of need in this country. I did that in South Carolina as well. That basically says if you have a hospital here, you can't have another hospital for X number of miles. They do the same thing for surgical centers, for nursing homes. We're going to put competition back in healthcare so that healthcare is fighting for the patient. That way services go up and costs go down.
Governor Haley, just a 15-second point of clarification. Would you allow the states that accepted Medicaid expansion to keep that?
So the problem with Medicaid is it needs to be sent down as block grants. Governors can best decide how to do that, whether they need to use it towards mental health, whether they to the states. The problem is they're only sending a small portion of it. They need to send more of that so the states can better take care of it.
Governor DeSantis, your response on whether you would allow Iowa and the other 39 states who accepted Medicaid expansion to keep it?
Well, I've spoken with a lot of folks here in Iowa, and we need health care that's accessible, that's affordable, and that's accountable, and particularly an emphasis on mental health. In every corner of this state, everywhere I've traveled in the campaign, people are really concerned about mental health with the kids in schools, people that are coming out of service to our country, with veterans. We're going to put a big emphasis on mental health. I've actually delivered on some of these things in Florida. We got accountability for the pharmacy benefit middlemen that are causing your drug prices to go up. So we have transparency and consumers pay less. And I just beat the federal government to allow the state of Florida to buy prescription drugs from Canada, which is 25 cents on the dollar what our prescription drugs cost. I want seniors to be able to do. And then finally, we need to upend this COVID and medical authoritarian regime that we saw going around this country during COVID. It's wrong to force vaxes like the COVID shot and say people are going to lose their jobs. That is not going to ever happen on my watch, trust
Governor
me.
DeSantis, same 15-second
I think what you do is you
clarification.
block grant the program and then let states run the way they see fit to do. But I can tell you this, expanding Medicaid leads to less private coverage. It doesn't necessarily increase access to quality care. I want to actually people get good health care. It's not just about a sheet of paper if you don't get any good doctors that gives you entitled for that.
Governor DeSantis mentioned mental health. Let's talk about that. There is a mental health crisis in this country. An estimated 58 million Americans suffer from some type of mental illness. Governor Haley, you say the mental health crisis is a, quote, cancer that no one has dealt with. What do you think is causing the crisis, and what would you do to fix it?
Well, I think we saw it exacerbated by COVID. I mean, with the school lockdowns and depression than ever before. 1 in 3 people right now suffer from mental health issues. But if treated, they can live a perfectly normal life. The problem is we don't have enough mental health therapists. We don't have enough mental health treatment centers. We don't have enough addiction centers. And if you happen to be lucky enough to get one of those 3, insurance doesn't cover it. We have got to start dealing with this because it's become a huge issue. And that's why we need to have more telehealth so that people can get the mental health care they need right when they need it. We need to have mental health counselors in schools so that they can identify when a child has a problem, that they can get the help that they need. But right now, we've got to get access to care. And that's, again, why I want to move those federal programs down to the state level, because states know they need more mental health support. They're not getting the dollars to do it. We don't need DC bureaucrats handling that. We need this on the ground so that we can get the mental health centers, get the therapists, and get the help that people need so that they can be healthy again.
Governor DeSantis, you said right here in Iowa this summer that closing mental health institutions, a policy supported by Ronald Reagan, was a mistake. As president, would you restore federal funding to those mental health institutions?
Yes, we need more people in institutionalized settings, unfortunately. But Governor Haley mentioned, I think correctly, the devastating mental health consequences for these school closures, a lot of things that happened during COVID. I never recalled seeing her out there fighting the fight. I was on the front lines on that. Governor Kim Reynolds was on the front lines on that. We fought back against the biomedical state. We were attacked by the media. We were attacked by the pharmaceutical companies. We were attacked by the left, attacked by Fauci. We stood and we helped people, and Iowa and Florida had the best schools opening in the entire pandemic because we led. That's what you want to do. Now, in terms of mental health, I run into veterans here in Iowa, and I think we have a significant problem with veterans, particularly the post 9/11 veterans. And we know the stats on suicide. It's really, really sad. As a fellow veteran, as president, I have to put that issue on the front burner. We can't keep turning on just through the VA. And it can't be done just by pumping people with pharmaceuticals. If a veteran has post-traumatic stress, you need more than just that. So we're going to use the VA to link veterans with resources that are throughout our country. For example, in Florida, we have an organization that trains service dogs to be able to be paired with veterans with post-traumatic stress. They understand the symptoms, they mitigate it, and you know what? The suicide rate is close to 0 as a result of that. We got to think bigger than these bureaucracies, and we've got to be there for our vets and their mental health.
Thank you, Governor. Turning to the topic of climate, 2023 was the hottest year ever recorded on Earth, and Americans are already feeling the impact. Just yesterday, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration reported that the U.S. experienced 28 weather and climate-related disasters that cost at least $1 billion last year, another record. Governor DeSantis here in Iowa, massive flooding has left farmers underwater. In Florida, rising seas threaten coastal cities. You have taken action in your home state to mitigate the problems of rising seas. But as president, would you do anything to deal with the underlying cause, which scientists agree requires cutting carbon emissions?
So on day one as president, we take Biden's Green New Deal, we tear it up and we throw it in the trash can. It is bad for this country. We have to have reliable energy. And here's the thing, they talk about, Joe Biden has said that global warming is worse than a nuclear war. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, gee, John Kerry hasn't given up his private jet. Obama hasn't given up his Martha's Vineyard seaside mansion. I haven't seen Biden do anything to hold China accountable except making sure that Hunter gets his money. So these guys talk out of one side of their mouth and then they behave in another way. And I think that's wrong. But I also think that those policies would devastate communities, particularly here in Iowa. I mean, for example, he wants to mandate electric vehicles. That's going to be more costly. I think the car companies would go bankrupt, but it's going to hurt blackouts if they kneecap reliable energy production in this country. Florida's had a massive decline in emissions. Wasn't because of a single mandate. It was because of innovation, because a lot of natural gas has replaced coal. We do have market-based solar, and it's a complement, but we cannot walk away from reliable energy. And I think about, here's what the left wants to do. They want to take away your freedom, and they want you to pay more for everything. We need you to pay less for energy, and we need to make sure people can innovate. We cannot have these mandates, and they'll be gone the day I'm president.
So, Governor, just a point of clarification, 15 seconds. Recent research at the University of Iowa ties these floods in Iowa to the rise in greenhouse gases.
And here's the thing, Jay,
let me just ask the question. As president, would you do anything to deal with this underlying cause?
Innovate. And here's the thing. China is building 2 coal plants a week. You can do everything Biden wants to do, and you're going to have way more of what China's increasing it. So why would we be cutting off our nose to spite our face? China is the problem here, and so hold them accountable.
Thank you, Governor.
Don't hold the American people.
Thank you, Governor. Governor Haley, as president, would you do anything to deal with the underlying cause of the floods and other climate disasters, which scientists agree requires cutting carbon emissions?
I mean, first of all, regardless of what party, everybody wants to have clean air, clean water. They want a world that they can pass on to their kids that's going to be healthy and all of that. But it's how do we do an agreement was because President Obama had put all these mandates down on our businesses, but they didn't do anything to hold China and India to account. Those are the 2 countries we have to really go to if we care about the environment, that we go and make them be held accountable. The second thing is we'll roll back all of Biden's green subsidies because they're misplaced. Rather than putting to drive an electric car by 2035, that's not even smart. One, because, which by the way, Ron took Biden's stimulus money and did charging stations all throughout Florida. I wouldn't have taken the stimulus money. But what that does is basically we don't have the infrastructure. And I'm not just talking about charging stations. Electric vehicles are heavy. And electric cars are made in China. So Biden gave this massive windfall to our #1 national security threat. If we're going to do it, innovate it, transition, and do it the right way, not in extremes.
Thank you. I want to turn to the issue of crime. The majority of Americans describe crime in the U.S. as either extremely or very serious. Recent data show crime rates falling, but some violent crime rates do remain high. Governor Haley, former President Trump suggested that he might try to stop violent crime by deploying U.S. troops to Democratic-run states and cities, something he could potentially do under the Insurrection Act. Is that something that you would do as president?
What I would do is, first of all, defund sanctuary cities. It's hugely important that we do that. That's where we're seeing a lot of crime. But the second thing is our law enforcement is demoralized right now, because if they go and they arrest someone for having a stolen gun, it's demoralizing when they go through all that effort, put their lives at risk, and then you turn around and let that criminal go the very next day. Prosecutors need to prosecute according to the law, and we've got to start holding them accountable. When we bring law and order back to our cities, then that's when they'll be safe. You don't do it by defunding the police, and you don't do it by just praising the police. You do it by having their backs, making sure we pass the first body camera bill in the country in South Carolina to make sure that law enforcement felt like they could do their job without feeling threatened about them doing their job. But we have to have prosecutors prosecuting. We have to defund sanctuary cities. We have to get these stolen guns and drugs off the street. And the only way we can do that is when we empower law enforcement.
Governor DeSantis.
I just think, that quote from the president, former President Trump, is a little bit rich because he was president during the worst rioting in the modern history of this country, the BLM riots in the summer of 2020. When I saw that happening in Minneapolis, in Florida, I called out the National Guard. We had state law enforcement deployed. We said, President, I will never let our cities burn. You have every right to stop this runaway rioting. As president, in fact, you have a duty. Now, Nikki Haley and I have a disagreement on the BLM stuff too, because she tweeted during this period of time that the death of George Floyd should be, quote, personal and painful for each and every American. But people in Iowa had nothing to do with that, or Florida or South Carolina. She was virtue signaling to the left. She was accepting the narrative, and she was trying to impress people who were never going to like us. I never bought into going after the police. We back the blue to the hill in the state of Florida, and we have lower crime as a result of that.
Thank you, Governor Haley.
It's interesting that he did that. He put a tweet that was very similar, but let me tell you why I did that. First of all, we had one of the worst two racial shootings. We had the shooting of Walter Scott, who was shot 7 times in the back by a dirty cop. We had a horrific shooting at a church where a white supremacist came in and killed 9 amazing souls. BLM, all of that, we never had to deal with riots. We never had to call in the National Guard, Ron, because when we had both of those shootings, we were able to pull people together. We didn't have riots, we had vigils. We didn't have protests, we had prayer. We brought people together. When I said that about George Floyd, when we turned around and had the worst shooting in a religious place that we had seen in this country, not only did I pass the first body camera bill in the country and keep our state together, not only did I move to bring the Confederate flag down, we came together as a state in prayer, and we had no division, no riots, no anything. We didn't need the National Guard because a leader knows how to bring out the best in their people.
Thank you, Governor. So you have been sparring on the campaign trail for months. We've seen some vicious attack ads going back and forth, and tonight we have had a very lively debate on its due. What do you admire about Governor Haley?
Well, look, I mean, I think that, at the United Nations, I did think that she spoke out strongly on some key issues, and I appreciated that. I also appreciate the state of South Carolina. My wife is a College of Charleston graduate. Her parents lived there for many, many years. And so it is a wonderful state. There's a lot of great people there. And I think to be able to have been governor there is a great achievement. And I really appreciate everyone I've gotten to meet in South Carolina.
Governor Haley, what do you admire about Governor DeSantis?
I think he's been a good governor.
Okay. So we're going to squeeze in another quick break, and we'll be right back with more from the...
And we begin with Governor Haley.
First of all, I want to thank the good people of Iowa. I have campaigned for 11 months, whether it's driving a combine or holding a pig at a produce area, or whether it's the fact that we've met owners of bakeries and small businesses. Every one of them knows that we can't go through 4 more years of chaos. And if it's Donald Trump, there will be 4 more years of chaos. And we can't be a country in disarray and a world on fire and go through 4 more years of chaos. And we can't go through another nail biter of an election. And if you look at the polls right now, going against Joe Biden, in every one of those head-to-head polls, Ron doesn't beat Joe Biden. Trump is head-to-head. On a good day, he might be up by 2 points. I defeat Biden by 17 points. That's bigger than the presidency. That's House, that's Senate, that's governorships, that's down to school board. That's a mandate to get our spending under control and get inflation down. That's a mandate to get our kids reading again and go back to the basics in education. That's a mandate to secure our borders with no more excuses. That's a mandate to bring law and order back to our country. And that's a mandate for a strong America that we can be proud of. We can do this. I know we can do this. If you will join with me in this movement, if you join with me in this fight, I promise you our best days are to come. God bless you.
Governor DeSantis.
Well, it's been great to visit all 99 counties here in Iowa. I've been able to meet so many friends and really learn about some of the best of America. Iowa's votes do not need to be corrected by any other state. You all know what you're doing. And we have an opportunity in Monday to really change the course of history. Donald Trump's running for his issues. Nikki Haley's running for her donors' issue. On 100% of my promises. And I'm the only one running that has beaten the left time and time again, from the teachers' unions to Fauci to the Democratic Party. We need to run under the banner of bold colors that are putting the American people first. We can't run under a banner of pale pastels of the warmed over corporatism, the likes of which is practiced by Nikki Haley. Freedom is on the ballot. Decline is a choice. We have it within our power to fix this country and to turn it around. I am asking for your support in the Iowa caucus on Monday, January 15th. I'll be a president that you can be proud of, and I promise you this, I will get the job done, and I will not let you down. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Our thanks to Governor Santis and Governor Haley. Governor DeSantis and Governor Haley, thank you so much, both of you, for being here tonight. Thanks to our audience, to our host, Drake University. For Dana Bash and the whole CNN team, I'm Jake Tapper. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to join us Monday, January 15th at 4 p.m. Eastern for CNN's coverage